Good morning. Are we all about doom and gloom or some hope? Well, probably a little bit of both, but we'll talk about it right after this. Stay tuned. Na, 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 na. Yes. Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 7th. Man, this year is just flying by, ain't it? Just got out of the shower and feeling pretty good. Yesterday was kind of a weird day, man. When you're dealing with if you guys didn't know, a tree fell on my house. And so when you're dealing with that and the insurance companies and the tow truck guy is supposed to be here to take the car, and it can be overwhelming. So that's where faith has to come in and you know do its thing. But yeah, it's been interesting. Luckily my dispatch load is kind of light uh this week, so that's going to help with all the insurance crap. The adjuster came in and climbed all over the roof of the house, and I had the tree people here on Monday, which was it was good to get everything off the house. And so it's been, so Monday I didn't go live for obvious reasons because I knew they'd be here. And then wasn't sure if I was going to go live today, but it looks like there wasn't much to do um with Raycons and stuff right this minute. But um we're going to talk about volumes in the Midwest have dropped considerably. So it used to be that Ohio, if you hit Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, you weren't going to struggle at all on getting out of there. And now it's a bit more challenging. It's not impossible. It's still decent volumes as far as like compared to the rest of the country, but not to the level that I've seen in the past. And so, and this time of year, it should be hopping, and it's not. So just know that freight is, like Shannon, I see her in the chat. She's been running this one lane. It's been working for her. And so she found a sweet spot, and she'll utilize that sweet spot until, it dries up, and then you move. The ability to adapt and overcome is what needs to be strengthened in this world today. It's that's the important part, because the spot market's going to do this. It's just how it is. It's been like that since I've been in the game. In 2014, I bought my first truck and went to Landstar, and although it wasn't technically the spot market, it kind of was. Same principles, and the spot market was important because a lot of Landstar freight is off the spot market. So You got your Landstar agents that grab loads from CH Robinson, TQL, and all that, and that's what they do. And also with their direct freight, which wasn't really on the low boards a whole lot. Their low board. So, but anyways, so I've been paying attention to this for quite a while, and it's I've done nothing but self dispatch. I never had a dispatcher while I was making a truck payment, and my way of dispatching for like trucking is, I'm helping the business person utilize the resources, and it's a different game now because you have multiple different avenues of finding freight. It's not just a low board. It's the broker's low board. It's relationships. It's a combination of all. And so at all times, I'm checking 10 to 12 different sources for freight. When the DAT board goes down, which it tends to do quite often, or if it's got a lot of scamming going on, like, every now and then I'll open up the DAT board and there's a broker that's spammed every location that I'm looking out of with huge rates on something, right? And I almost want to call the brokers and say, did you guys get hacked? Because this doesn't seem right. Or a lot of times I'll check the MC number for the credit and there's no records found. So, I mean, it won't even come up as a name. So, you got to be careful. There's a lot of scamming going on. There's a lot of that going on. So, but I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm not here to tell you that the world's going to end. I'm here to warn you that, things are going to get tight. Things are going to get difficult. But, and I'm not going to paint a rainbow scenario for you or a unicorn's, it's, we got to face reality. And most of the people that are hurting, it's based on their own doings, and that's a hard thing to kind of stomach. But anyways, we'll go over some low board stuff. We'll read some comments. We'll discuss things. We got the Blitz going on next week. I would give you the dates, but you know what? They've already started. It's there's two or 3 days that they do, but a lot of states have already started. A lot of states are starting to enforce the English speaking thing. So just be on your toes. There's a lot of trucks being pulled in right now. And so your equipment needs to be top notch. It needs to be held together because your odds of getting pulled into the weigh station or getting that red light are pretty high right now. And as we go further into this month, it could affect capacity. The Blitz usually affects capacity, but I don't know how much it'll affect it now. So, but my interest is in volumes and what can I get for where can I go. So let's go to the comments here and we'll go over, I'm going to go over DAT trend lines and then we'll look at the 1 through 3 low board and we'll talk about some of the volumes there. And also we'll go over some freight that's being posted there. So Grafton, good morning. Good to see you, my friend. Cheap Free Hauler, good morning. Shannon is burning her fist. Good morning, Shannon. Where's the $4 freight? Cheap Free Hauler, check this out. So every now and then you get a load that like, wow, I can't replicate that again. And so I had a driver in Tennessee and I looked on a broker's load board and I found the load. It showed it was 300 miles. And I was able to get $800 for it. It was going into Arkansas. So it was only I think a 30-mile deadhead, something. It was very short. And sorry, I think the cats are destroying something. But whatever. Los house isn't on fire. Anyways, so we booked the load and I started doing the TruckLogix thing and I enter, it does the miles. It's only 100 miles. And so I'm like, wait a minute. So I grabbed my phone. I'm like, ask Google, how far is it from here to here? And it was 100 miles. I literally got an $8 a mile load. So somebody's computer screwed up. So yay for computers on that one. Computer 0, human 1, right? But yeah, and what kind of sucks after that is, the next level is like, I got $800 for only 300 miles, where normally we were happy with that. But now, once you get $8 a mile, it's only downhill from there. And I think that that's what a lot of people are experiencing right now that have been in the game long enough to reap the rewards that, fulfilling COVID shortages, did for our rates. So, it kind of sucks for a minute. Like, oh man, this rate kind of sucks because I just got $8 a mile. How do you top that? $10 a mile. And meanwhile, our flatbedder is doing stuff like that. $1,000 for 100 miles. Why? Because he's in the Southeast. That's why. So, anyways, cheers. We got our coffee in our We Are Metal, We Are Family mug, and Let's continue with the comments. Morning, y'all. Trying to get my third drop off, then 2 more drops, and done with the slow. Good deal. DIY says he's first. Good morning, Adam. Scott, do you like them multi-drop loads? My name is Nobody. Good morning. Buck Brown. Morning, fellow Snorelordians. Well, I like more money, but no, I like the easy one and done, but my wallet says otherwise, right? I mean, we all want one and dones, right? What I hate is when you're doing multi-stops for what used to be a one and done rate. So, and that's kind of the case with a lot of the stuff I was doing out of Georgia. If you can even find it on the low board now. So, did the tree puncture the roof? No, Dutch. It did mess up the siding that could leak eventually. That's on the side of the other roof because we have a 2-level roof, right? But the adjuster that was on top of the roof, he said nothing punctured the roof, but there are shingles that have been messed up. That could be a problem, so they're going to fix that. So, do you call carriers to sell your services and tell them you have premium low boards? No, I don't do that. It's funny. I was on the phone with DIY one morning, and somebody called him, one of those dispatch services, and they promised him $10,000 a week, $10,000 to $15,000 a week. And so he goes, yeah, I got my buddy Steve here, and let's, man. And so I started going like, man, how are you doing that? Like, do you have direct freight? No. This is all low board. I'm like, okay, but well, how you accomplish? You must have like a magic low board, or you must have like some direct freight. I mean, how are you able to get $15,000? For a dry van of all things? How are you doing that? And it messed with this guy where he got the manager on, and the manager, she was like, yeah, click. So it was kind of a fun game. Desiroki Pam, good morning. I have not looked at that spreadsheet yet. I will soon, so I apologize. It's been a little hectic here in my corner of the world. Stopped at south of the border last night. That was an experience. Is that a restaurant, or did you actually go into Mexico? Into Mexico. Stanza Transport. Morning from Merrill, Wisconsin. Eating me a chorizo skillet. Nice. 15K a week equals 9,000 miles. Yeah, I mean, look, that's doable, right? Unplug the ELD and just do that. But I don't recommend that. That's against the law. It's unsafe. But in the old days, that's what you didn't have the ELD, so that's what you did. And I think that a lot of people are showing footage of these carriers changing their signs on the side of the door. And I think that's what's going on. I think they found a way to run 2 logbooks. And that's why the brokers want VIN numbers. That's why the brokers want selfies in front of the truck with the logo. I mean, there was a rate con I put in yesterday where you must take a selfie with the freight behind you, with your logo behind you, with your truck behind you. I mean, they're the scamming is through the roof. And that's probably part of it, because there's a lot of loads on the load board that just can't be done by a single person in the amount of time that they need to. If you got, I've called on many loads where it picks up at 2:00, 2 p.m., delivers at 4 a.m. the next morning, and it's 800 miles. And it's a Walmart load. So you know what happens if you're late for a Walmart load or a Costco load, right? You sit. So it's they're looking for the people that are willing to cheat on that, to make that happen. And if there's been so many times where I've called the broker, I'm like, that's not a good transit time. Well, what's wrong with it? It could be done. Like, no, it can't. And so knowing the hours of service regulations as a broker is probably important, because you have to, and look, there might be some guy at a desk that, at a big broker said, okay, these are the 5 loads you got to get rid of today, make it happen. And they're tasked with the fact that the schedulers didn't schedule it right, and they've got to deal with that. So there's a lot of shenanigans going on right now, and the evidence is clear of these companies that are constantly changing their signs at the truck stops. And it's interesting that they're doing it boldly in daylight, like without anybody, like, oh, we don't care if you're seeing this. And that's how freight is being moved a lot of times, and it makes it harder for the honest man or woman. Cascade, good morning. Nice Volvo there. South of the border on 95 at the North Carolina, South Carolina border, the place has billboards for 100 miles along 95. Oh, okay. So it's a Mexican joint. So I have not eaten at one of those joints. So, all right, let's share the screen. And we probably won't go on too long. I can only talk about this stuff for so long before it becomes boring and or frustrating and or just whatever. Only way I can possibly make $15K a week is to become a stripper for the blind and mentally screwed. What a very interesting comment, Scott. Oh, okay, let's see here. Let's share the screen here. All righty. This is DAT trend lines. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to this. Like, I don't watch this like a Bible or anything like that. But I do take note once a week or so to kind of like see what's happening, right? And a lot of these numbers are skewed. A lot of these numbers are for the DAT low board only. It's not like Sonar where it's all the trucks. This is just some of the freight. And just like 123 has their own, deal themselves. But there's 3 things I pay attention to. This map is one on the 123 low board. The second one is DAT trend lines here and there, because this, again, this is outdated. This is April 28th to May 4th. That's the last week they have on record. Obviously, we're into a new week. And I've seen rates drop like from Friday to Monday. Like you wake up Monday and now you're losing all the loads over, $50, $100. So spot load posts are only down 2% for the week, but they're up 3% for the month and up 17% of year over year from last April. So a lot of this volume drop is being hidden with that. Now, spot truck posts are down quite a bit for the year. They're up quite a bit for the month, and they're up a bit for the week last week. Van load the truck has gone down a little bit, but it's up 26% from last year, which is good news, right? So here's the thing. And and I mentioned I think I was watching Wheelburner, and there was a discussion about doom and gloom, and I was reading it in the comments, and people like Economic Ninja and stuff. They want and City Prepper that their whole purpose of their channels is to put the doom and gloom there so you feel prepared, right? It's not that you can be any more prepared. Like Ninja did a video where he bought a ton of DEF for his pickup truck because he thought there was going to be a shortage. And DEF goes bad after about a year or so. And so I wonder if he still has some of that, because he basically hoarded it. City Prepper, same thing. He does. I mean, yeah, they have some good information, but for the most part, their channels are based on fear. And I vowed that I wasn't going to be that guy, because I want to be real with you, but I don't want to kill your hope, because that's what a lot of YouTube channels and TikToks and the Facebooks and the Instagram reels do, is they're designed to kill your hope. So you medicate with dopamine, alcohol, food, all that. They're meant to do that. Maybe not directly from that influencer. Like, I'm not saying that Ninja's like purposely doing that so you get addicted to those things, but it brings in views because people want to feel like they're in control. And so if they're watching a prepping channel, or they're watching the economic channel and they're aware of everything, they feel like they're a step ahead of the general populace that isn't paying attention. And what that does is that feeds the ego that you have some kind of control. I'm here to tell you that you don't have any control over what this spot market's doing. You don't have any control of what the president's doing. You don't have any control of how the tariffs play out. You have no control over that Pakistani-India war. You have no control over what's happening in Ukraine. They want you to donate money. They want you to fight for the cause. They want you to, care and concern and wear the ribbons and post the colors on your social media and all that. And at the, and you think, I have some control. I'm speaking my voice. I'm doing what I need to do, right? You have zero control. Zero over all of it. So your best gift is discernment, adaptability. Have your eyes wide open, but then still be able to act. And a lot of these channels kill your hope so much that you're frozen with anxiety to act. Right? So at the end of the day, you don't know what's up, what's down, right? You don't know what's going on, because you might look at a chart like this and say, well, I'm doing fine. And then this chart might show you a positive, awesome picture. And then you might be sitting there in your truck saying, why am I not seeing those numbers? Why am I not getting that? And people don't like to feel conflicted like that. So my job is to be real. My job is to, actually, you know what? This isn't even my job. My intention is to be real. If we're going to struggle, we're going to struggle. If we're doing well, I want to say we're doing well. But 90% of the time, the things that you are in control of, people aren't doing. They're not managing their expenses. They're not maintaining the truck. They're not aware of their numbers. They're not willing to do the extra stuff. And, I get it. Owning a business, you want to do what you want to do. And that's the purpose of it, right? I mean, there's two types of business owners: the ones that want to do what they want, and the ones that have a goal to do more. If you're a one truck operation, that's all you desire, and you just want to be the best at that. That's fine. That's how I would be if I had my own authority. I wouldn't want to bring on other drivers. I'm not trying to build an empire, right? And some people are trying to build an empire by buying multiple trucks and multiple trailers and thinking that that's going to be a solution. And it's no, it just makes it a little bit harder when times like this come along. And so to build an empire, you really have to have your your stuff together. So there you go. And it's through failure that you become stronger. It's through mistakes that you learn, hopefully. But I know people on their fourth and fifth lease that are making the same mistakes over and over and over. They're in this endless loop. You know, it, I can see a version of hell being this endless loop of chaos that you never seem to snap yourself out of. And I've seen people like go from company to company thinking that it's the company that's the problem, but they're making the same mistake. Oh, here's a company with a $4,000 a month truck note, so I'll go to here. Oh, they suck, so I'm gonna go to this other company that also has a $4,000 a month truck note. Oh, well, they suck too. And then after 5 companies, you're like, well, man, trucking just sucks. No, it's the $4,000 a month truck note that's your problem. It's your money management that's your problem. Yeah, there's a difference with the companies, right? But maybe the problem is, how about lowering your expenses? How about being better about your money? How about recognizing that when you own a truck, there's a lot of BS that comes along with it. And so I try to be real with these people. I've had people call me and ask me, "Hey, Steve, should I become owner operator?" Well, let's look at your personal life. Let's look at your finances. Let's look at your credit. Not that I can see their credit, but I'm like, "How's your credit?" Uh, non-existent. Okay, then yeah, don't buy a truck. Or if you do that, you're going to work for a company that leases you the truck, and guess what? You will become their slave when that truck goes down and you can't afford to pay for it. Now you owe them the money instead of taking care of it yourself. So now you just increase your debt by tenfold with no credit. So, and I hear this over and over and over, right? So, Scott says, I bought my truck because Snorelord. I said, buy a truck, become a billionaire. Oh, that's funny. I've been on the struggle bus so long, they upgraded me to a luxury seat. You embrace, though. You embrace it, right? That's why you do as well as you do. I thought you was setting on that spiffy 5-gallon bucket. Huh? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. That's me, Scott. Slave, right? Luxury seat is a throw pillow on top of the bucket. Okay. All right, I get it now. But like, so, and I watched my dad struggle as an owner operator. And why? Because he struggled with money. He struggled with reality. He had a love-hate relationship with trucking. Some days he loved it, some days he hated it. My finance is so bad, MHC couldn't get me approved for a truck. Wow, that's a lot. All right, so flatbed's looking pretty good. Although some of the loads have gone down a little bit, but you know what? Let's go to 123 Lowboard. This is 123lowboard.com 48065. I am paid to promote them. We'll check their volume, but let's look at we will look at the dashboard here on DAT, and I'll show you guys what I was talking about. Let's refresh here. Alaska's got 3 loads going in. So anybody going to Alaska? Alabama 620 in, 809 out. That's rare for van. This is all for van. Arkansas looks good. 370 in, 572 out. California. This outbound number keeps getting lower and lower every day. 1283 in, 1497 out. Florida, check this out. 1183 in, 2016 loads coming out. It's been a little bit easier to get a decent rate coming out of Florida. Georgia, check this out. 1,320 loads going in and 3,119 loads out. Iowa's only got 241 loads out. Illinois, 1,485 in, 930 out. Still a decent volume. Still a decent volume, but usually the other way around. Indiana, 911 in, 675 out. Missouri, 549 in, 648 out. Michigan, 790 in, 435 out. Michigan's been a sleeper state the last couple of weeks. North Carolina, 1092 in, 1495 out. 1465, sorry. Nevada's even got more out than in. 154 in and 206 out. Ohio, 1493, 972 out. See what's happened in the Midwest, the normal states that are usually pretty good. PA also getting upside down. 1393 in, 1173 out. South Carolina, 556 in, 1255 out. So what that does is that tells me that the Southeast is where you need to place your truck. Out west is going to be a battle. Tennessee, 832 in, 1088 out. Texas, of course, has got the highest volume, 3343 out. And I anticipate that to increase over time as California starts to shut down. Virginia, 676 in, 700 out. That's not bad for Virginia. And then Wisconsin, 762 in, 580 out. Now, what if you're doing the multiple stops, those volumes are important because when the volumes are in the truck's favor, you can ask for higher money for the multiple stops. But if the volumes are not in our favor, then they're going to give you a one and done price for the most part. So let's look at van on the 123 low board here. I just upped my emergency fund from 20 cents a mile to 40 cents a mile, means more sardines and crackers. It's probably a good idea. Sardines, not the crackers, but yeah, 40 cents a mile. Yeah. Cascade says Seattle to Alaska is paying 14,000 flatbed. That needs to be higher. I did the math on that, and go back in my old videos, and I did one about Alaska because people at Landstar were talking about going up to Alaska, and 25 is the minimum that I would go to Alaska for to be profitable. Let's see. GA had 500 loads posted 6 times each. Yeah. You have to have common sense to pull a flatbed. That's why I pull temp control. Same, right? I don't mess with flatbed. Would the Midwest be in a bad area? Would it be better to run Georgia, Texas instead of Georgia, Midwest? Not necessarily, because the problem with Texas is they're still not paying as much to go in. Texas has had this weird thing going on. And I'm sure somebody like Sage can explain it to me, or someone in, one of these freight report guys that follow shipments and tariffs and all that stuff. But for the most part, we can look at that lane, but you just got to be careful when you're going up to Midwest. So, if you're running short, North Carolina, Alabama to Georgia to Virginia, Georgia to Florida and back, that's still paying really well right now. If you are in the Midwest, it's the short haul, mid-range haul, like 300 to 500 miles, that are paying the good daily rates. And that's where the times come in. That's where the transit times are like, this is all screwy, right? That's over $4 per mile. Fester, what's up, man? How you doing? Alaska is a bucket list load, not a for-profit load, right? I would love to do the Alaska trip in somebody else's truck. I think the outbound loads are slim to non-existent. Yes, they are. You're coming back empty, which is why it needs to be at 25,000. I did the math on it. And so when you do the math from, I think it was from Laredo, it needed to be 25 to Fairbanks. And then because you're going to deadhead all the way back to Seattle and then take a hit on that because there is no outbound, right? So everything has to be kind of a round trip number, or at least add 2,000 miles, however many miles it is from Fairbanks to Seattle, to at least get a baseline of what you need per mile, what you need per day. So it's that simple. It was my first version of let's do the math as an owner operator. Because people, oh man, $14,000, that must be really good money. Yeah, for 3 weeks of work and a ton of wear and tear on your truck. 1,800-ish, yeah. So I was right, I rounded it up. Sorry, I got a text I got to deal with. So anyways, here's the hot market map for van. So let's look at Texas. Now this is a decent outbound for Texas. McAllen to Forest Park, $2,500, $220 a mile for 2 days work. That's pretty good. 1,135 miles. No extra stops listed. So yeah, this is a good rate. I would do this. Looks like they got a couple of these. Tyler to St. Louis, $1.43 a mile. No. HVAC supplies. This is air conditioning is coming out of train. This is what this is. And the fact that they're only paying $1.43, that's no. Cargo Chief's got this at 1,600. Rate Check's got it at 1,278. And when you see a lot of loads like this, you're like, well, what's the point, right? What's the point of going there if I'm not getting anything good out? So let's look at the inbound into Texas. $1.30 come from PA. $1.19 to come out of North Carolina. $1.73. $1.38. Georgia to Texas, $1.48. So to answer your question, cheap freight, no. Don't even bother with Texas until this fixes itself, which I don't know if it ever will. Now, this Tucson to Austin, this is not too bad. All right. Sorry about that. Probably going to Kroger, right? Might have to end this live feed. All right. Um, so we'll make this part quick. Here they're paying well. Georgia to San Angelo, Texas. Picks up at 1 o'clock today, delivers Friday at 8 a.m. 205% above my cost per day, way above what the average rates are going. Okay, there you go. Conestoga. It needs a, it's not a van load, it's a Conestoga load. Flatbed with tarps, okay. So that's kind of a flatbed load. Here we go. Full load, 84 cents a mile from Lockburn, Ohio to Denton, Texas. How are they moving this? With 3 stops added. And I get it. It's very it's very it's very hard to not be emotional when you see a load like this, so you just move on. You don't even call on this load. Don't even entertain this idea. Either that or they did a typo and it's supposed to be 1970, right? Guy didn't have enough coffee or something. You cannot be profitable at that level. So, yeah, Texas is just kind of a weird dead zone. Now, let's go to Georgia. Sort this by highest rate per mile. See where the shorties are. Scroll down until we start seeing some $600-700. 725 to go to Cartersville to Nashville. 314 a mile to go to Savannah to Homestead, Florida. $1,600. Alabama, 310 a mile, $700 to go to Alabama. Savannah to Lakeland, 950. You could probably get a little bit more for that. It's only 318 miles, so if you get that up to 1,000, you're good to go for the day. 1,200 to go from Savannah to Royal Palm Beach. Here we go. Ocklackney, Georgia to Dunn, North Carolina. Let's take a look at this one. 1428 for 498 miles. So I'm going to guess that there's probably some stops on here or a drop trailer. Box trucks not accepted. Item unknown. Atlanta to Jacksonville. That's a good one. $1,000, 286 a mile. $350 or 350 miles. Sorry. Easy day. Especially if you've got limited hours. Pooler to Chattanooga, $1,000. So it's easy to run short haul in this area right now. Look at this. Atlanta to Durham, North Carolina, $1,000, 268 a mile. Now, if we go to Ohio, let's do Ohio here. And let's look at highest rate per mile. That usually gives us all the short haul stuff. Cincinnati to Richmond, Kentucky, 665 for 118 miles, 500 for 99 miles going into PA. Ohio to Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, 507 miles for $2,200. Let's take a look at this one. 12 stops, 13 stops. 13 stops in probably the state of New Jersey. It's gonna be interesting. $850 go from Cincy to Detroit, but remember, Michigan looked really bad. Seemed like you can make a little bit better rate per day down in the South. Mechanicsburg, Ohio, or Urban, Ohio to Mechanicsburg, PA, $1,100. How many miles is this? 400 miles. What's the tolls on this? $205 in tolls. So keep that in mind if you book that. You got a couple of those. $850 to go from Ohio to PA. So your best lane, your best paying rate per mile, rate per day lane is going into PA. And you guys saw the outbound on PA. So, do you really want to mess with that? Monroe, Ohio, Fredericksburg, Virginia. I would almost want to do this one. They're at 1,400. It is heavy. No Progressive insurance. So you one truck carriers that have Progressive may not be able to do that, or won't be able to do this load. Is there tolls on this? Nope. Right now, another good paying lane is Ohio to Virginia. Now here's Cincy to Riverton, Illinois. It's not bad. How many miles is this? 314. They're at $810. Scrap metal. So, you're risking your tires. Scrap metal loads can be hard on your trailer and hard on your tires. That's probably why they got a little bit more money than what normally pays on that load or on that lane. A lot of stuff to Maryland. So let's take a look at flatbed and step deck. 2,000 outbound loads in Alabama, 1,100 outbound in Georgia, 1,600 outbound in Mississippi, 956 out of Louisiana. There's more loads in Alabama than there is in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi combined. Illinois, Indiana, Ohio seem to be doing okay. But this is where you need to be at with the flatbed. And then reefer, put that up. Reefer, it's hard to grab a lane when it looks like a checkerboard like that. And it seems like it's like whack-a-mole. It's like it lights up differently every day, right? So reefer, it becomes a little bit trickier. You can't put all van loads in a reefer. Stuff that needs the whole cube, you can't do. Stuff that needs the wider width, you can't do. The generic Coke, Pepsi, water, if it's not too heavy, water can be a little bit heavier than a reefer can handle. Canned goods. You know, that kind of dry stuff you can put in a reefer, but for the most part. So anyways, I'm gonna get off here. Thanks for watching. 48065 if you want to try the low board 123 low board out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but let me try something here. I've completely forgotten about this, but my son helped me build a website. Check this out. I saw Adam do this. I'm like, I want to do that. Isn't it pretty? It's got my logo here. It's got home, blog, Virch. You guys, check this out. You probably didn't know this about me because you're probably new to my channel. But you go to blog, boom. I have a blog. That was me about, 10 years ago in front of my company truck that I had at home. And yeah, there I am in all my glory. Some apnea stuff on there. And so if you want to know what my life was like before I became an operator, this is the blog. And then there's a link to another blog that I did of my CDL experience. Right? And so let me put the link in the chat here. Then of course it's got, my merch because I'm trying to become rich by doing nothing. There you go. There's my stuff. Did you guys know I had these metal water bottles? Isn't that awesome? Let's see. And it creates a new link. And then there's my about page. About me. I wrote this thing out. And then it's got a link to my YouTube channel. And then contact. Yeah, my son did this for me. There's my website or my email. And then my Twitter, and then my Instagram, which pretty easy. My Facebook's down here. So, but yeah, that's and it goes that was fresh out of the truck wash there in Joplin. That was when I was delivering a Coke. It said delivering joy, so I made a funny meme about that one. And then of course my photograph that Sterling made for me with my logo on the truck. But yeah, I mean that's so yeah, that's my website. So check it out. Anyways, 48065 if you want to try out the 123 low board. I appreciate everybody coming in and supporting the channel. And get a hold of me via email. Snorelord@yahoo.com is a quick way. And if you need to discuss numbers or if you want to discuss lanes, we can do that. I do have a lot of things in the works that I need to work on. And there you go. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. I appreciate everybody that's come in. And yeah. So with that being said, strength for today, hope for tomorrow. I know I already said that, but aggression turns to screws. Peace.